Are we live?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
It's loading it now.
Oh, okay.
And you are ready to go.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to call to order at 7:11 the meeting of the Governance Committee for the Board of Education of St. Louis City. Just to let you know, Matt has agreed to take our minutes. Thank you, Matt. I'm going to take the roll call, and I'll do it according to how I see you guys. Matt Davis.
I'm present.
Okay. Antoinette Cousins.
Present.
Dorothy Rhodey Collins.
Here.
And Joyce Roberts.
Present.
And then, of course, I'm here. So we have a quorum, and actually all the members are here. I'm not sure if Dorothy knows the other two members, and I thought maybe we could do some introductions, but if you do know them, we'll just pass on that. You guys know each other? Okay, great. So we won't go through that. So tonight, I just want to talk about what the purpose of the governance committee is. We'll do that, and then we're going to review what has been done. Previously, Natalie was the chairperson of this committee, and Dr. Robertson and myself served on that committee. So I'll talk about a little bit about what was done. We're going to review what needs to be done in the short term, and then long term, we'll have a little discussion about that. And then those things that have to be done in the short term, I'm hoping that we could kind of maybe assign tasks so that we kind of get through the process efficiently, so that we won't all get together on meetings and try to decide on things like wording. If someone takes that charge, then we can just look at the wording that they've come up with. And then if there are any other discussions or questions, we could discuss those toward the end, and then of course we'll adjourn. The goal is to get out at within an hour, ideally maybe 8 o'clock, but if not, at least by 8:11. So I'm going to talk about a little bit what I think the governance committee is all about, and then if Dorothy maybe can help me, since it was really created before I got on the board, if Dorothy can maybe clarify anything. But my understanding of the governance committee was to establish some guidelines on how the board members are going to behave as board members, and not like behave like in school, but what norms we're going to have, what our ethics are going to be, things we absolutely won't do, and then how we're going to assess ourselves as a governing body of the board. And that was my understanding when I joined the governance committee. But if there's something further, more, Dorothy, could you maybe share or highlight some things that I've missed about the purpose of the governance committee?
Sure, I can. Here in just a moment, I'll pull up the document that outlines all the tasks. There's a couple others. One that comes to mind is onboarding, and then the review of bylaws. And I think to propose professional development. So let me, I didn't realize you all didn't have that. So let me pull that up and we can come back to that if needed.
And if you could send that to me and I could forward it to the other board members, that would be great, okay? Because I don't think I actually ever had that document. So that'd be wonderful. But onboarding is a good idea. And she'll pull that up and we'll talk about that. But let me just talk about what has been done. And I sent you guys some documents, and some of those documents really address what has been done. And I'm going to share the screen and kind of pull up those documents. Let me see here. Where are all the documents?
So I found it. If you do want me to share screen.
Oh yeah. Okay. Hopefully
I have it. If actually, let me just email it to you. How about that?
Okay. So while she was emailing that, I'll kind of bring up some of these. I'll bring up some of these documents. Oops. I was just explaining to Ms. Vanoy how technology is probably not my strongest thing, but shoot, trying to, where's my document? I know I have it open. Okay, let me see. Share screen. Okay. Well, first I want to talk about is, you know, one of the things that we did as a board, we had a committee that was started called the Ad Hoc Committee. And in that Ad Hoc Committee, we created a mission and vision statement for the board that Dr. Adams participated in, so that we could understand, you know, what our goals were. And I sent that to you guys, the mission statement and then the vision statement. And obviously, ideally, everything we do, we want to remember the mission of the board, which is all about the students and ensuring they have an appropriate education. So that was done, and it was actually approved by the board back in, I believe, January, in the January meeting. So that's one thing that was done. And then some other things that were done was, let's see here. Let's see too. The board, let me go get this. I sent a document called governance approved norms. Now this was approved by the board before I got on it back in April 2019. And those were the norms of that were established. And they related to, of course, decision-making, professionalism, and communication. And since I've been on the board, and of course, confidentiality, since I've been on the board, one of the things that I think was often pursued was, you know, hearing from everyone, letting everyone speak. And even if that's, those conversations got pretty intense, was to still be respectful and let them speak. And so that's been my experience on the board. And I think it comes from having these norms that were set. And then of course, having that confidentiality norm, understanding that what we do talk about, in particular the closed sessions, you know, they remain closed even when we leave those sessions. So, you know, at some point you guys want to go over that, but this is something that ultimately, I believe, resulted from the governance committee. But most recently, since I've been on the board, the board has, or the governance committee rather, has been working on the ethics, code of ethics. And let's see. So let me go try to, I'm gonna pull up these code of ethics because this is really where I want to start. Okay, yeah. So this code of ethics is really where I got started as working on the committee. And it really started out as a fairly long document. And what we did as a committee is we reduced this 14, there were 14 different codes of ethics. And the committee, while Dr. Robertson and I were serving on it, and Natalie was serving on it, we reduced that code of ethics to 8. And that was presented to the board also in January, but it was never voted on. So this document, which is called the Formatted Code of Ethics, was kind of showing where we started and where we ended up. But then I also sent you guys a final version that was presented to the board, but never was approved. So we have to actually submit that again to the board fairly soon to get it approved. And so one of the things I would like everybody to do, if you would, is to go over that final code of ethics, and which is also a document on here. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. And the document name is Formatted Code Ethics 1/4/2021. It has 8 different items on it. And for some reason, I cannot find it.
Regina, can I ask just a
Yes.
really quick question about the code of ethics?
Uh-huh.
So the 14 points, was that a previous code of ethics?
Yeah, that was a code of ethics from the board back from, Dorothy, do you know how long ago that was? That 14-point code of ethics, when that actually was done?
I want to say it might have been 2016.
Okay, okay. So it was really updating that code of ethics from 2016. And for some reason, I have it up, but when I go to share it, I can't seem to find that document. Okay, do you guys see that? The code of ethics, the 8, yeah, here it is. So this is what we ended up with, and that was through the work of Natalie, Dr. Roberts, and myself. So what I would like you guys to do, if you guys would take some time and review that, and then at the when we schedule our next meeting, I want to just make sure you guys are on board with what has already been done, because we do need to get that to the overall board to vote on this code of ethics, okay? So, and it's the code of ethics dated 1/4/2021. And again, we spent some time, and one of the things we did that I don't want this committee to do if possible is kind of work on every line item and decide, you know, what we'll accept and what we don't accept. I guess my goal, what I would prefer doing is, you know, assigning it to someone coming up with the wording, and then, you know, we could just kind of you know, tweak as we go along, and I think that could be very helpful. So that's what we've done so far. So we have a vision and mission. The board had previously come up with some norms for the board, and then that have been approved, and then we came up with this code of ethics. This committee, governance committee, came up with this code of ethics. However, it has not been taken to the board for final approval. Well, we took it to the board, but Natalie wasn't there, and we thought that she should be there to represent the work, so we held off on it. So that would be our next step, is to get this approved by the board, the full board, I should say. And then, so that's what's been done. And Dorothy, you sent that email to me already? Oh.
Yep, I did. I sent it to the whole committee, so everyone should have it.
Oh, good. Okay, great. So if you guys can look at that email that Dorothy sent us, I'm going to open it up too. And since it is actually on my board phone, so I'll just read it here. The purpose of the Board of Governance Committee is to ensure the board is performing at its most optimal effective levels by doing the following tasks: reviewing the bylaws of the board and making recommendations to the board regarding revisions. So that's something I think we've adjusted a few bylaws in particular related to voting in new officers, because that needed to be done before new officers were voted on, but we not actually dealt with the other bylaws, and there are a lot of them. So that's on my list to talk about tonight. Biannually review the board's guiding documents, including but not limited to the norms, the code of ethics, and making recommendations to the board for changes. So we certainly have started that. Regularly review and discuss the performance of the board. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Develop and monitor and implement a process for board self-evaluation, which of course we'll talk about that. Develop, monitor, implement a processing for onboarding, which is something I had not thought about. So we'll talk about that as well. Identify areas for improvement through professional development opportunities. And I think Dr. Roberts has already issued, given us an opportunity for professional development. So that's good also. But we probably want to talk about professional development as a board as well. And then other tasks assigned by the president or by majority vote of the Board of Education. So, so that is the task of the board. And so that's what, not the board, but the governance committee. So those are the things we hope to focus on. Some of those things, like I said, have been done, but there's a few things that have not been done. one of the documents I sent to you guys include the old code of ethics, and at the end of that document includes some things that the board should not do. So what we chose to do when Dr. Roberts, myself, and Natalie were on the board, were on the governance committee, we chose to create a code of ethics with more positive wording, and then take those do nots as a separate document. We did not actually get through that document. Actually, we didn't even start that document. So that is actually one of the things that we still need to do, is to take that document and complete the portion of that document that has the things we won't do, like the board won't do such and such, the board won't do this or that. I'm trying to pull that up too. Okay, yeah. If you pull up, if you have your document and you see the code of ethics, which include all the old code of ethics, which are actually 1 through 16, and then at the bottom of that document, there's a list of things that says on the 4th page, I acknowledge that the following are unethical behaviors and will refrain from such actions. That's where we left off. And again, I'll try to share this. So it's on my screen here. It says, I acknowledge everything above this we dealt with, and we've reduced the 16 line code of ethics to 8 main things by combining some things that were similar and then actually taking out some things that were not similar. But the part we did not get to was this part where it says, I acknowledge the following actions as unethical behaviors. We did not finish that part of the code of ethics, and that's the part we still have to do. So we would want to assign that to someone tonight to maybe come up with some wording that may, fit that. And our thought process was that let's do a code of ethics that lists all the positive or positively phrased codes of ethics first, and then at the bottom list those things that are more negatively phrased. And that's these things here. And tonight we hope to assign that task to someone who will take on that, to come up with some wording that you think would be good, and then as a group we'll come together and just work on it and maybe tweak it a little bit if necessary. Okay, so anyway, so what we need to do, some things we have to do is finish up the code of ethics, the negative phrased codes of ethics. We have to come up with a onboarding process, a recommended onboarding process. We have to come up with, we have to talk about the bylaws review and how we're going to deal with that. And then, and talk about self-evaluation. Now, Dr. Roberts did send a document on self-evaluation that, could certainly be workable. And, I'm hoping that, the goal today is all these things we have to finish up: the onboarding, the self-evaluation, onboarding, self-evaluation, the code of ethics, the negative phrase code of ethics, and then the bylaw review. What my goal tonight, if this is okay, and please let me know, I'll stop talking after this, is that a preferred, are you guys okay with doing it that way? Or would you guys prefer us getting together and addressing each one separately as a group? And I just ask if you guys would kind of comment on how you think we should do this.
I like your approach, Regina, to assign different tasks and then we come back. I think that's easier.
Okay.
That's just my
Anyone?
thought.
Okay, okay, thank you. Tony, I see your hand is up.
Thanks. I was trying to figure out how to do the hand up thing. So I guess I have a question, so to speak. The code of ethics, if you kind of look at the code of ethics and what's being presented, that's basically what our oath is when we're sworn in. Those are kind of the things that we actually had to swear to when we were sworn in as board members. So I'm trying to understand why not just take that particular verbiage that's already been presented, review it, do whatever kind of amendments that may need to be done with that, so we can kind of get past that stage and kind of dive deeper into the bigger issues that we have right now.
Okay, and yeah, I agree that it is the oath. My understanding that the oath changed over time. I know because when I took the oath, it was a little different. It was just kind of, once we get these documents, we're going to have a book of what we're going to do. And it was just kind of a reminder. So when we go to that handbook, we always have that right there before us, especially if maybe we had different oaths and they were changed over time. So that would be more consistent with what we do. But ideally, but of course, the oath should reflect it. I'm not sure if all boards, even though we take that oath, I'm not sure if all board members remember that oath and what we decide to do. So we wanted to put something that's in our handbook that we all have and we've all consistently agreed upon versus, the oath that is actually created by someone else, a public official. So,
the oath.
Oh, go ahead, Dorothy. Yes.
The oath is set by state statute. So I mean, if the concern is that people have to forget what they said when they took the oath, maybe we need to reprint that in the front of the book.
Yeah.
But it is set by state statute.
Okay.
Well, I think that's the question that that's the clarity that I'm actually trying to get. If that's the case, I get that we do need this, but is this more so more pressing or more important, or like should our code of ethics be at the top if we already have the oath, the guidelines for the oath that we all swore to, and should we start kind of moving toward what's more pressing that we need to be addressing? I guess is what I'm saying. If we're looking at the order of this and how and what we're actually attacking, I would think that the bylaws would be something that we should kind of push more to address, to get to provide some level of order for what the board should actually look like.
Yeah, your point is very well taken. And the goal right now, and maybe in the past we should have just kind of went through that quickly and did it. And took the oath we did. So I guess what I would like to do, if you don't mind this assignment, is going through the oath and the code of ethics that we already did to see if they're consistent. And then we could just choose one as our main thing and just move on from that versus having to do it again. But we are going to actually address the bylaws tonight as well so that we can kind of get all of that going and we can start on it. And because that's going to take a much longer time, and it's something we have to get started on right away. But at the same time, getting rid of all these other things, and so we can get them off the table and they're done.
So with that said, Ms. Fowler, I'll take that charge to look at the code of ethics and our oath and do the comparison and contrast and bring it back to the board, to the governance board to review.
Okay. And if you don't mind taking the negatively worded items as well, because that may also be part of the oath, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you. Very good, thank you. Okay, so the next thing
Regina,
we have to talk, yes,
Regina,
go ahead, Dr. Roberts. Yes.
Just for a point of clarification, any documents that I'm sharing with the full board is informational only. It just serves as some guiding language. They're not mandated items, but really for informational purposes.
Okay, thank you. Well, since you kind of mentioned that, Dr. Roberts, why don't I go ahead and move on to the self-evaluation form, which actually was a great start, if I'm honest. Do you mind, Dr. Roberts, taking on an assignment of, although what you presented was just an idea, but do you mind taking that on as assignment of presenting what you'd like to see as a self-evaluation form for the board so that the committee can, go over what you did and, tweak if necessary, but you mind taking on that as a task? I know you presented an idea, but if you maybe could come, get something together to say, hey, this is what I'd like us to discuss and possibly present.
I think it's a critical piece for the board. And
Okay.
so, yes, I don't mind taking on that assignment.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then, and bear with me, I I don't want to seem like I'm, delegating everything, because I do want to, I'm going to do something too. But the onboarding, Dorothy, I think you probably have the most experience in terms of not just being on the board, but leading this board and how what we need to know, how we need to know it. And I know when I got on the board, you really kind of helped me with calls and meetings to say what you need to know. Would you mind taking on the onboarding task of creating something that we could look at and say, hey, this is how onboarding should be done to make sure that members are well aware of what this board is about, what their role is, how much time it takes and things like that. Would you do that?
So I would be glad to. I've already done some of that as I've onboarded other members, so I'm happy to help with that. It's a pretty significant amount of work. Matt, would you mind helping? I think that might be good too as a new board member. Just having your perspective of coming on, like that may help refine the process. Would you be able to work with me on that?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I think
Great,
learning what I don't know would be helpful.
And I'd like to just add to that, as a part of the initial training, there's a huge binder that everyone gets, and in it may be some documents that can be pulled and used as a part of the onboarding process.
Okay, great. Very good.
I don't think I got a binder. Did you get a binder, Tony?
Oh, you didn't get your binder yet?
You'll be getting
No, it's from MSB. It's from MSBA, not from the district. So you'll get it when you do your 16-hour training.
Oh yeah, when you do your training, you'll get a huge binder.
Gotcha. I got you.
But
I would encourage you guys to take the training as soon as possible. I think it's extremely helpful.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, for the record, I do want to thank Ms. Dorothy, because what I was able to experience with what she was able to do for Matt and I don't want to speak for Matt, but it was informative, because we were kind of coming in the dark, not knowing what, so she gave us a little bit of guidelines or guidance, documentation. So I think that is definitely needed, and I think Dorothy would do well with that.
Yeah, me too, because I think I was up and running a lot sooner than I would have thought I would have been up and running. So I appreciate that. And then the next big thing that that we have to do is the bylaws review. Now, this is something that I think is huge, and I know we discussed it as a board. And just tell me your thoughts. I just think and I don't know if we even can do this, but it just seems like it might be something where we need professional consulting to really get through all of those bylaws to make sure we have them right. And this is something that I would be willing to take on, is to, and Dorothy, maybe you could help me with this. Does the board have any authority to have money assigned to consultation on something like bylaw development, bylaw review and development?
So there is some budget money allocated to the board. In the past, I believe it's largely been spent on professional development. There aren't that many bylaws of the board, though. There are a lot of district policies, but the board itself, our bylaws, gosh, I don't know, there may be 10 to 20, so it's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so if they're the policies, yeah,
so there are lots of policies. Those are for the district, but the board bylaws, it's the 9,000 series. And the policies, there may be a couple that fall in the 0, I don't forget what they call it, Article 0 or whatever. Yeah, Article 0 and Article 9, but it's not that numerous. I'm not saying that we couldn't explore consulting options, but you might want to start by just looking at what's there first.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, and I was thinking of the policies, if I'm honest. I was thinking of the policies. So if the bylaws are mostly 9,000 series, I'll take that on as a task to start looking at them and then presenting them and dissecting them so I could bring to you guys, what they are. And as we get through some of these other things, we'll start working on the bylaws and making sure they're okay. So I'm going to dissect them, analyze and say what they're about, and I'll give that all to you guys. And then as we accomplish some of these other things, we'll have the dissected bylaws, of course, from my perspective, and then we could maybe divvy out specific bylaws for us to rewrite them, as a individually to bring to the team to make them what we think they should be today. So I'll take on the bylaws things. Did anybody else prefer that? But I was kind of the only one without an assignment, so I thought maybe I should do that.
Regina, let me just offer.
Okay.
Am I
Okay,
talking
Dorothy, then Tony, then Matt. Go ahead, not Dorothy. Dr. Roberts. Yes.
Okay, I just want to offer up the fact that we belong to the Council of Great City Schools. We pay dues to that organization.
Okay.
This is some of the work that they do. And so it might be helpful to get a partner around it who have done it over time.
Okay.
And that would make the process a little easier.
Okay.
They are also available for pretty much all we need.
Okay.
And so the other thing that I would say is Jeff can also help in the process. Okay. And I'm also recommending that we get a clear understanding as to why our policies are so much different from the other 524 school districts in the state. They only apply to the urban centers, Kansas City and St. Louis. And so that makes it a bit challenging. But I would start there because we pay due, we're members, and they have the expertise.
Can you help me with the introduction there, Dr. Roberts? Okay, absolutely. Great. Okay, Ms. Cousins, I think you were going to say something as well. Tony, were you going to say something?
I'm sorry. I was just saying, if you need assistance, I will assist you.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. And Matt, what about you? You were going to say something as well?
I was just going to point out, and I didn't know if Dr. Roberts had any more information, but I noticed on our agenda for Tuesday for the work session, Mr. St. Omer is doing a presentation on policy audit. So I guess we'll learn more about the big task of the policies then.
Okay, great. Okay, so
and I wanted to, Joyce mentioned this, but I wanted to support what she said. Jeff is the one, like, it's one thing for us to be reviewing them, but when it comes to rewriting them, having the attorney's cooperation and doing that jointly, because there are state statutes that our bylaws have to adhere to, and we want to make sure that we are following all of the statutes that we need to be, and so he's the one that'd be best suited to do that. So reviewing them and kind of identifying in the ones that we've done in the past, it's been identifying a need to have it changed, talking about what the goal is, and then working with him to get that wording to reflect our intent, and then making sure that it's in adherence with statute.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so far what I have is that Tony will tackle the oath and code of ethics and see where they connect, and if we need to have just one or there's some things need to be separated. Dr. Roberts will work on the board self-evaluation document, and all this will be presented to the entire governance committee to finalize and then submit to the board. And then Matt and Dorothy will work on onboarding document, and then Tony and I will work on the bylaws, but with the help and introduction to the great county schools and I'll get the name right. And then of course with Jeff St. Omar to make sure that whatever we say is actually right and according to state statute. So is everybody clear on the assignments that we have? Okay, so what we want to do is we've assigned tasks. What we want to do then is talk about, you know, when we can have this stuff done and when we should come back together to look at those things. And I guess what I envision is maybe looking at a couple of these things at the next meeting, and then the meeting after that, looking at some of the other things. So with that, I want to make sure that we have a good established timeline. Everybody will report on what's been done so far, but like if we could kind of maybe in an early meeting, kind of just get the code of ethics and oath taken care of, you know, since that's kind of been started and stuff, and then kind of move on to the self-evaluation, because we probably need to be doing that soon, and then the onboarding, since we probably won't have a new board member for a while, and then the bylaws and stuff. And we could kind of set timelines so that we can know when things will be due, and ultimately get them to the full board as early as possible. What I don't want to do is I don't want to kind of like have this linger forever and ever and it never kind of gets to the board. What I really would like to do is get it to the board ideally this year, but that's me. So anyway, so how often do you guys want to meet? Do you guys want to meet every 2 weeks, every month? How do you guys feel about what do you think is a good time for regular meetings? Anybody? I was thinking ideally, well, go ahead, Matt, go ahead.
I was going to say if we meet sooner now, and then if we, you know, sort of establish where we are, how long this work's going to be,
okay.
We can spread it out, would be my thought. So, I mean, 2 weeks from now is good, although it sounds like
Okay.
Tony's got the first assignment, so I don't want to tell her to get her homework done in 2 weeks if it can't be done.
So Tony, you do have the first assignment that we're gonna kind of get through and settle. Matt was suggesting maybe we could meet in 2 weeks. Is that too soon, or you want a little bit more time? What do you think?
I think if we meet in 2 weeks, we can determine how much additional time we need, because if we get in the habit of pushing it out,
Yeah.
then it becomes very challenging. And so today is the 20th.
20th, yeah,
And
so that'd be June 3rd. Tony, do you think you could have something for us to look at in a couple weeks?
Yes, I'll have it in a couple of weeks. My apologies right now. Actually, my son graduates tomorrow, so I have a lot of family here.
Oh, okay, okay.
So definitely I will. I think 2 weeks will work great for me. Thank you for that. I'll have it before 2 weeks because I'll actually be out of town on the 3rd, but I'll still be able to do the Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. So right now, let's have it on mind. Maybe we'll meet, you know, every 2 weeks, because that what will happen is if we get through the code of ethics in a couple weeks, and then if there's some tweaking that we have to do, we can still bring that up at the next meeting, but still move on to the self-evaluation in a month. Dr. Roberts, are you comfortable with that?
Let's establish the date. Is that Thursday, June
3rd? Yeah.
Okay. I don't think the evaluation will take quite that long. And so if there's any time left over on June 3rd, I will be ready to present.
Excellent. Wow. All righty. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. And then the onboarding, Dorothy, about how long do you think that would take?
I think it probably, I honestly don't know. I think it would be helpful if Matt and I looked through it together and talked through it. But I mean, it sounds like we have a full agenda for the 3rd anyway. We will be able to tell you by then what we're thinking. I mean, it's also accurate that it's unlikely that we'd have another new board member before, 18 months from now. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. And so that's good. And if we need to move around the onboarding and put the bylaws ahead of that will work too. And we'll talk about that on the 3rd. Okay. So one thing we do know for sure is that I'll schedule a meeting for June 3rd. Okay. And then let's just anticipate a meeting on June 17th. I'll be out of town, but I certainly will be able to connect on no, I'm sorry, I'll be back on June 17th. Actually, I'll be back on June 16th. So I'll be able to connect on June 17th. So let's plan on meeting on June 3rd and then on June 17th. And what we'll do is we'll get the reports to see how much more time we need, okay? Is 7 o'clock the best time for everybody? And really, Matt and Tony, I think maybe you, because I think during the summers, Dorothy is out of school, and Dr. Roberts and I are retired from full-time regular jobs. So
Don't say that. Don't say that.
I said full-time regular jobs.
I'm real busy.
Paying jobs. I mean, full-time paying jobs. We work for free now. Matt and Tony, is 7 o'clock workable for you?
I think that works. I'll be out of town on June 3rd as well, but I can participate by Zoom.
Okay. And Tony, 7 o'clock is okay with you on June 3rd?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and put out that meeting invite tomorrow for June 3rd. And on the June 3rd meeting, we'll be talking about the code of ethics and the oath. And then we'll also be talking about the self-evaluation, okay? And then we'll just do updates on the other things based on what we gather from that. And Tony, I'll just give you a call about the bylaws later on after graduation, after the weekend and all that stuff, after you had your great time, okay? And then I'll call you, okay? And then Dorothy and Matt can get together. What'd you say, Tony?
I said, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. That's so exciting. Now, is it from high school he's graduating?
He's Lutheran South. Hopefully he'll be at either Missouri Western or Claflin.
Yeah. Oh, I like Claflin. All right, you guys. I guess that wasn't part of the meeting, but that's pretty much about the things I've had outlined. Are there anything else, any other items that we need to discuss tonight?
Regina, I'm going to call you with the contact number after the call, after this Zoom call.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other items? Okay, well, then I will say that I think, again, I didn't make a motion to call the meeting to order. Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, Matt made the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Tony second. Are there any questions or discussions about adjourning? All righty, well, we are adjourned at 7:54, and I will put out the meeting invite tomorrow, and then we'll meet again on June 3rd. Thank